What's going on, guys? This is the 9th Surpac tutorial, and in this lesson we will learn how to manipulate the content of the composite. We will populate a 7th description field in addition to the already existing ones by means of applying a cutoff grid to the assay values we have in the composite. It's actually going to be a short tutorial, just part 2 of lesson 8. So let's get started. In the previous lesson, we created composite from 3 different methods. The first one, composite drill holes, was created using the no selection method, that is for all the drill holes. The second one, composite ore, was also created using the multiple zone selection method, where we kind of constrained our composite by that part of the drill holes which intersected the ore domain. The third one, composite inside, was generated by means of extracting points of the composite drill holes that fell or lie inside the ore domain. Remember, the ore is defining the domain of the area, so whatever statistics you perform on your dataset should be based on the ore. I also stated that for the purposes of geostatistics, you can use either the composite inside or the composite ore file, because these two files are constrained by the ore, and that is what your analysis should be based on, except that one composite file will have more points than the other, but it doesn't really matter which one you choose for your analysis. So we can view the number of points and verify that this is the composite inside file. So if I go to inquire segment properties, I touch my string and it says string 1 has 311 points. Now I will inquire for the other composite file, composite ore. Remember, this file has 2 strings, string 1, which is the white one, and string 2, which is the blue one. So I'll go to inquire segment properties, then I'll touch my string 1 and it says string 1 has 307 points. Then I'll inquire for string 2 and it says string 2 has 5 points. If I add 5 to 307, I have 312 points, meaning there are more points in composite ore than in composite inside, just by 1. Okay, so now let's take a look at the content, let's say, of the composite inside file. I have explained all these in lesson 8, that is the previous lesson. This is the string number, this is the y coordinate, the x coordinate, and the z coordinate. The rest are all description fields. This is the gold values or the assay values. So what we want to do in today's lesson is to populate a 7th description field by means of applying a cutoff to the grades we have here. There are several ways by which one can populate a description field, but we want to populate the 7th description field by applying a cutoff grade. Applying cutoff grade to your dataset is dependent on your knowledge about the ore body. So based on where I collected my data and the knowledge about the ore body, I would want to apply a cutoff of 0.3 to the grades I have here, meaning I will consider grades that are above or greater than 0.3 as profitable to extract or mine, and I consider grades that are below 0.3 as not profitable to extract. Okay, so how do we go about populating the 7th description field? The reason why we are populating the 7th description field is because we can use it to fill the attributes or populate the block model. So how are we going to do that? By applying a cutoff grade to the grades we have in the composite. I go to file tools, then I select string math. Okay, and it says define the string files to be processed. Which file do I want to generate its 7th description field? So I will go into my work directory and I'll select composite inside. You can choose to select the composite, or it doesn't matter which one you choose. Then define the files to be created. The name of the file that will be created after populating the 7th description field. So because I'm applying a cutoff to the grades I have in the composite, I want to give it a name, composite cutoff. and here you enter the string range. If I had selected composite or over here, which consists of two strings, string 1 and string 2, I will enter here string 1 comma string 2 so that Surpac will cater for both strings. But if you want Surpac to cater for all the strings you have in the particular nominated file here, you can choose to leave this field blank. And the constraint field, you can apply any constraint to suit what you want. And the field, this is where you select the field that you want to populate. And we want to populate the 7th description field. So you select D7, meaning description field 7. Then I come here to the expression. This is where you enter the code for your file that will be created. The code that will be entered here will be used to populate the 7th description field. I suggest that you become very cautious when you are entering the expression here. So let's go on. This is the code that I will enter in order to populate the description field. I want to apply a cutoff grade of 0.3 to the grades I have in there. So this is the code I will enter. If the first description for D1, if it is greater than or equal to 0.3, then I want Surpac to assign 0.3. Else, it should maintain the first description for D1. Let me go over the code or the expression again. If D1, remember D1 contains the good values or the assays. If it is greater than or equal to 0.3, that is the cutoff that I have set, then I want Surpac to assign a value of 0.3 to the 7th description field. Otherwise, it should maintain it. So if I see 0.3 in the 7th description field, I know that the gold values is greater than the gold value at that point is greater than 0.3. If I see the first description field value has been maintained, then I know that it is less than the 0.3 that I have set. Okay, after creating the composite cutoff, it will go into our work directory and you get to appreciate what I'm talking about. Okay, remember the if here is double if. That is the code or the expression that Surpac accepts. Alright, so I'll click apply. Is being processed. Okay, so composite cutoff has been generated. This is it. You see, this is similar to the composite inside file, but let's take a look at the content. So here it is. We have 0.3, 0.3. As you can see, the first description field for this point is 0.36. It is greater than 0.3, so Surpac has assigned 0.3. Remember the code said if the first description field D1, if it is greater than 0.3, then Surpac should assign 0.3. Else, it should maintain the same description value. So if you see 0.16 over here, it is less than 0.3, and Surpac has maintained it. Likewise, 0.19, it has maintained it. 0.38 is greater than 0.3, so 0.3 has been assigned to it. Alright, so let me display the points for the file, the composite cutoff file, so that we get to appreciate what I'm talking about. Let me hide the strings, then I'll display the points. Then I'll display the good values. Then I'll select description field 7 because that is what we just populated, so D7. Okay, so you are going to see 0.3s and other good values there, as you can see here. So the 0.3s refer to all those grades that are greater than the cutoff that I have set, that is the 0.3. The other values are those that are less. Okay, meaning the 0.3 is that part of my grade that I consider very feasible or profitable to mine. Okay, I can display different colors for the grade so that we can get a clearer picture of it. I can go to File Tools, Then I come here to classify strings by numbers. I click on that. Then define the input file. I go to select my composite cutoff. I just want to generate colors for the 0.3 and the other grade so that we get a clearer picture of it. Open. Then define the output file. I'll enter a name here. Composite cutoff categories. Then the number of passes is 1. That is the classification that I want to use. Then the input string, you can enter, if you have more than one string, you can choose to enter the string ranges here. Then I want to classify the strings by D7, that is the 7th description field or description field 7. Then I'll classify by point. So my output ID string, I want my first string to be let's say 1. Okay, then the minimum value from 0 to 0.3. Remember, 0.3 is my cutoff. I want it to have a string ID of 1. Then I will add another field. Then I want that one to have a string ID of 6, so 0.3 to 999. So all grades that are within 0 and 0.3 will have a string color of white, that is string 1. All grades between 0.3 to 999 will have a string color of yellow, which is an output string ID of 6. Okay, so composite cutoff category file will be created in my work directory, and we will take a look at that. Apply. Okay, so here we have it. We have composite cutoff category created. It's the same file, but remember, we have classified the strings by numbers, so you can see different colors here. It's the same format. So if I should hide the strings for the composite cutoff category and display the points, so the yellow ones you are seeing there are the 0.3, that is the cutoff grades that are greater than 0.3, and the white ones are those that are less than 0.3. Let me display the description field, that is the D7, the cutoff grades. So I come to description field number section, then I select 7th description field D7. Apply. Okay, so you see the 0.3, that is my cutoff grade, has been highlighted with string 6, that is the string 6, 0.3 to 999. The 0.3 is my cutoff, and the white ones, that is string 1, has been assigned to the grades that are less than 0.3. Okay, as you can see. So applying cutoff to your data set, like I said, is dependent on the knowledge you have about the ore body. You can also choose to consider the idea of a geostatistical consultant. Okay, so the yellow ones you are seeing here refers to the grades that are above 0.3, and the white ones you are seeing here refers to the grades that are lower than the 0.3. Okay, so that is it for today's lesson, applying cutoff grade to our composite grade values we have there. In lesson 10, which is the next lesson, we will learn basic statistics. I suggest to you that you go through the previous lessons in order to understand lesson 10, that will be basic statistics, so that you understand everything and you wouldn't have any problems. So catch you in lesson 10. I hope to see you. Bye for now, and please don't forget to subscribe.